Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, Gary K, Eric E, and Will R. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. Today we're trying an audible and a cube visual transition. First up today, I tweeted it out earlier. What do Tesla investors need to prepare for? Well, first we need to zoom out and see the bigger picture. When we do that, it helps us to see trends like this. Since Tesla's IPO, there really have been two periods of consolidation lasting 2.4 and 5.7 years, and two other shorter periods of parabolic moves lasting on average 1 year. So I can't tell you how long this current consolidation phase will last, but I can tell you at some point the next parabolic move will come, so make sure you are ready and you don't miss it. At the end of the day, plenty of investors try to get cute during these periods, thinking they're smarter than they really are. Nobody is smarter than the market, but all you really need to do is make sure you're present or in the market for these periods. I'm grateful for these periods to accumulate to prepare for the next move up. I just want to remind everybody that Tesla is one of the only auto manufacturers that actually makes its own seats in-house. Tesla does it just down the street from the Fremont factory. Parts of the factory are highly automated, but there are some other parts that I'm not sure will be automating anytime soon, doing things like this. Honestly, it's seemingly little things like this that most people have no idea about, and if more people knew what Tesla was really about when it comes to vertical integration, I think there would be a wider appreciation. We got some data from the CPCA for Tesla Shanghai for the month of October. This is just the wholesale number. We do not yet have the breakdown for retail and export. So here's that figure plugged in, and I will add the nuance once we get the retail and export breakdown. October being the first month of the quarter, we want to compare that to July, April, and January. But obviously April and July, not great months to compare to. As you can see, again, zooming out, Tesla Shanghai has been a very volatile year with COVID and supply chain issues, factory upgrades. You get the idea. Honestly, we should expect heightened volatility into 2023. Now, maybe not to this degree unless the zero COVID policy rears its ugly head again. But for now, given everything going on, this is just business as usual. And sure, you can try to analyze month over month moves and read into the decline like all of the headlines would have you do. But honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't seem like a good use of time. Looking at some other companies' wholesale figures for the same month, you can say what you will about BYD, but
everybody knew how bad cocaine was. Gah, man, did they move paper.
With the latest .4 update, Tesla is going to bring back the distance measurements, simulating what that feature was with the ultrasonic sensors. Of course, now doing this vision only. This was pointed out by Green the Only. Now, sadly, I have not been able to track down any videos of this in the real world. Hopefully in the next few days and weeks, once this feature is rolled out to more people, we get to see how good this first iteration of this software really is. Green said these distance estimates are created to mimic the actual USS sensor, including the locations front, middle, middle, right, and so on. Now, of course, the main question everybody has is this front part of the car that really the cameras can't see. Tesla's solution reportedly, of course, when this car was further back, those cameras did have this area in vision. So to some degree, they're going to use that memory and the speed the car is traveling to do some weird math and come to the end distances. If any of you happen to see this feature, shoot me an email or hit me up on Twitter. Ryan McCaffrey shared this picture that I have never seen before either, but it looks like the light for the charging port in the Cybertruck door may have a different styling than the regular Tesla T, a little more cyber futuristic. However, we've also seen this, so just a reminder, none of this is a done deal for the production version. That said, this is definitely much closer to a production version in my opinion. Not an analyst shared some data saying that in the third quarter in California, Tesla had 12.5% of the overall auto market. This is data for the auto market in California covering both ZEVs and non, but pulling some data out of here, I'll show you what we get. Sometimes I really think simple is better. Now, this chart also is very important because if you remember back in 2020, Elon started locking horns with some politicians in California, and people started to say Elon's becoming too polarizing, he's doing too much with politics. You can have your opinion, that's fine, but the data says what it says. since that time, in a state that definitely has a political leaning, I think if we can all agree, Tesla is still selling very well and gaining market share rapidly. Again, this is not just the EV market, this is for the overall auto market in California. This is one of those charts I like to have handy, so take a screenshot if you want, but anytime somebody argues Elon's become too political, he's ruining Tesla sales, just make sure they know that that's not what the data says. A quick word of caution. If you're using the same password across multiple online accounts, or you're using Apple, Facebook, or Google to log in, please stop doing this as soon as possible. I was that guy and it blew up in my face. I was forced to research password managers. I landed on NordPass, and fast forward to today, and they're the sponsor of this video. NordPass is a zero-knowledge password manager, meaning even the NordPass team cannot see your info. You can store all of your important information in one easily accessible place across devices. No need to memorize any of this data anymore. I honestly can't talk about NordPass without mentioning the autofill feature. Hopefully you guys know by now I don't like hyperbole, but I'm gonna say it. It's a life-changing feature. You see these NordPass icons that automatically appear? You just click them and it will autofill your information, and it does work on all devices. When you sign up for new accounts, you can auto-generate a password and you can edit the parameters as you see fit. And it will auto-store your new information for you when you create the new account. I talked to my guy at NordPass and got Electrified viewers a new offer. Just check out nordpass.com/electrified, use coupon code electrified to get the best 2-year plan offer plus 4 additional months for free. We're talking around $2 a month to dramatically simplify, organize, and automate your life. And yes, it would be a big support to the channel. The link is below. Microgrids have been around for a little while, but this one is even more integrated than usual. This community is by KB Homes, and it's the first all-electric, solar, and battery-powered microgrid in California. It's in Menifee, California, and these homes have backup battery storage, bi-directional charging already installed for EVs. The homes are interconnected, think virtual power plant, which creates a resilient energy network, a little microgrid. Here are some of the details if you want to take a look, but there's set to be 200 homes in this small community. So no, this is not Tesla specific, but the blueprint 100% is. This right here is data that as you live your life, you should always have in the back of your mind when thinking of the auto industry. Here we have a list of the top political contributors. Number 1 on the list, NADA, the National Automobile Dealers Association. However, one of the most interesting things about this list is not necessarily who's at the top, but it's the amount of money that these politicians at scale are to some degree selling themselves out for. We're not talking huge sums of money. I mean, as you can see at the top, it's still less than $2 million total across the aisle. If you're curious, here is the rest of the list with Ford in the 4th spot. But if you scroll down, we can see the totals, $27 million. Back up, this was for the 2021 to 2022 election cycle. This company Interbrand does an annual best global brands study, and Tesla is 12th on the list, but there's something more interesting to point out. This year sees the fastest rate of brand value growth ever recorded, demonstrating the growing contribution a company's brand has in driving economic success. It makes sense, right? As the digital age continues to expand globally, more people are tuned into companies' missions, their values, and ultimately what they're about. We have so much more insight into companies and their executives and their products now than we did even 20 years ago. Here's a look at their top 20 for 2022, and as mentioned, Tesla sitting in the 12th spot. I don't think we need to get into the methodology here to tell us what we already know about Tesla's brand, but they did have a top 15 risers list, and on that one for the year, Tesla came in second, growing 32% year over year in terms of brand value. This item is out of stock, but in case you missed this altogether, you can enter your email to be notified if it's back in stock. Christmas sweater for Tesla, one personally I really wanted. I was not fast enough, sadly. In case you're out by the Petersen Museum in California on November 19th, it sounds like the Roadster and the Cybertruck will be making an appearance at this exhibition. I'll include this below if you want more detail. It looks like GM is developing a battery separator for EVs. Now we have essentially no information on what they're doing, but they have partnered with Microgrid, a battery manufacturer, to make special EV separator tech, and they plan to build a plant in the US. All we know, these two companies are receiving $200 million from the DOE, and they're aiming to improve safety, charging, and battery life. Dodge has revealed an updated prototype concept type of car with this new red color. Just wanted to highlight they're working on the world's first BEV exhaust system, basically to make a noise. This one is probably still a ways off, but Dodge is definitely still tinkering and looking for feedback. Ford is still heavily in the midst of a shakeup. They've had 3 senior executives leave the company, and they've replaced their quality chief with Jim Baumbick. Now, fun fact, in 2022, Ford had the most recalls of any automaker, 61 to be exact, affecting around 7.6 million vehicles, according to NHTSA. And this is before hitting any type of scale with electric vehicles, which for Ford to transition from ICE is going to be a challenge. Part of why Farley said product improvement and improved customer experience are top priorities at Ford. And shout out to James Stevenson for this chart showing us what we really need to know. Again, look what happens when we zoom out the trends that we can now see. I'll just say it, I think James has a very bright future in a brand new genre, financial ASMR. This is a new press release for Polestar. It looks like its 2 biggest investors will each be contributing around $800 million to provide some liquidity to Polestar to make sure they have enough cash for 2023 and the heightened economic volatility. Volvo, who owns around 48% of Polestar, will be committing $800 million in an 18-month term loan with an equity conversion option for Volvo cars. Polestar will post its financial earnings for Q3 on November 11th. This is some data from the IEA on solar installations globally. Again, zooming out. The world installed around 174 gigawatts of solar in 2021, and the IEA is expecting the number for 2022 to be 260 gigawatts this year, a rough 50% increase. In 2021, the global solar sector was valued at around $190 billion. And when it comes to cumulative global solar installations, most measurements have that number surpassing 1 terawatt in March this year. Back to just 2021, China installed 54.9 gigawatts, the EU was 28.7, and the US in third, 26.9. For some context, in 2021, Tesla deployed 345 megawatts of solar, or 0.344 gigawatts. Just some real quick macro stuff. Lisa said the gap between the 2-year and the 10-year treasury yields are the most inverted, the most negative since the early 1980s. The main talking point here, when the 2-year yield is significantly higher than the 10-year and that trend is sustained, that almost always predicts a recession. It's really not that hard to predict right now. I'm showing you this because now a 1 or 2-year treasury is yielding over 4%. For the first time in some while, it may make some sense to actually lock in that 4% risk-free rate. Now, nothing is truly risk-free, but that's the closest we will ever get. And yes, I know that with inflation at 8%, if you lock in a 4% rate, you're still losing 4% in real terms. However, if you're investing in crypto or even Tesla or stocks, you're losing what, 10, 20, 30, 50% depending on what you're in. So a positive 4 is better than a negative 50. It may not change your life in the short term, but over a lifetime, this stuff compounds. If you've never purchased treasury bonds before, here's an excellent video. It'll be linked below. Last up today, you know how your whole life everyone has just told you the stock market just goes up over time if you wait long enough. Well, here we have the S&P 500 that, yeah, over time, dating back to 2000, seems to have a steady, clear upward trend. However, guess what has also exhibited a similar trend line over time? This orange line is the M2 money supply. So, does the stock market generally trend higher with time because companies become more efficient and productive? Yes, to some degree, but if you factor in the M2 money supply, look what happens. Here it is, a look at the last 25 years of the S&P 500 when accounting for the M2 money supply. Just takes the S&P 500, divides it by the M2 money supply. This is what we get. That clear upward bullish trend over time, not so clear anymore. But much more on this in the future. Don't forget, check out NordPass linked below. For the price, it's honestly a no-brainer in my opinion. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like the video if you did, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.